The topics that we study in schools today are complicated and complex. How do we make those complex topics more accessible? The science of learning and brain-based learning point to interleaving. Interleaving refers to teaching, studying, and practicing information in differing orders each time. It includes bringing in content areas that aren't directly related to what you're talking about at the moment. For example, when you're studying science, making connection to social studies. When you're studying mathematics, practicing different types of problems all at the same time, rather than one type of problem only. It can be helpful to mix up closely related topics to encourage students to distinguish between those topics, to really gain a deeper understanding of what those topics are, how they're similar, and how they're different. In Be Glad, we do this in a number of ways. You'll see English language arts skills, for example, built in across our units. Skills such as focusing on specific sounds, focusing on morphemes, focusing on prefixes and suffixes and root words, focusing on parts of speech can be embedded into a variety of strategies, including our input charts, the big book, or poetry, for example. You'll see us build in mathematics when we engage students with the Cognitive Content Dictionary, when we ask students, how many of you have heard this word before? And how many of you have not heard it? We can weave in some simple mathematical practices there to get students to consider how many have heard or not heard that word. We can also encourage students to use mind maps to build connections across domains. This isn't the traditional way that we generally use mind maps. However, they can be adapted to help students make connections between other topics they're studying currently, topics they've studied in the past, or to do word studies. We can use mind maps to encourage students to look at a vocabulary word, for example. They can make connections to other topics that they've been studying that may include that word. They can look at different parts of speech and the way that that word is used in sentences and in syntax. They might add related words that are related in meaning. Let's look at an example of interleaving in the classroom. We have been studying root word during English language arts. We've been studying prefixes and suffixes. And so these words are printed on a different colored piece of paper. And when we review, we're going to talk about some of these words, but they're a little different than the words that are up there. So we might have a different suffix. We might have a different prefix. It just depends on the word. It may be a plural noun where we have added the plural S or ES. We may have a different suffix like we did over here on our chant when we were studying this, our poem. So let's read the words and then think about, are you starting to see something different about one of the words that's up here? Ready? Here we go. The first word is, read it with me, settler. Very good. Here you go. The next word is, read it with me, colonies. Very good. And here you go. Settled. Very good. Here you go. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to be talking about the concepts that we talked about in our Virginia colony pictorial input chart. And what I'd like you to do is, as we're reviewing this, if you have either the word or a little adjustment, like the same root or the same word with a different suffix, then you're going to just come up and put the word right on the chart. If you have an exact match of the word, you can just put it right over the word. If not, then you'll put it next to or near the word. Okay? Make sense? Okay. We talked about something that has to do with money, the exchange of goods, the ways that people make money. And I'm referring to here economics. Very good. If you have that word or something related, come on up and bring it up. Ooh, we have one. And what is this word? Read it with me, everybody. Economically. Now notice it's the same root here, but we have a different suffix at the end. Very good. Then we talked about a very interesting topic. Here was our gesture, and that is the, read it with me, politics. Now, this group, and when they came to the Virginia colony in the South, started off and they landed in a place that is called, read it with me, Roanoke Island. This failed. They came to this place, they established something, and that was the what, everyone? Settlement. Very good. Ooh, we've got a couple here. Let's see what the words are. Okay, what word is that? Settler. Now when we add, notice the same root here. Okay, I'm going to ask you about yours in just a second. When we add the ER, what does that mean? A person, right, a person versus settlement, which was the place. And then we also had, what was your word? Settled. Now what does that mean when we have that suffix at the end? You're on the right track, but when it's ed ending, that means it was in the past, right? So you're definitely on the right track with the verb here. Verb, noun, because it's a person, and noun because it's a place. Very good. We talked about this particular area that was called, read it with me, Virginia. And Virginia was one of 13 of these. Colonies, very good. All right, and what is this word card? Let's show it to the class and let's all read it together. Colonies, nice, excellent. And where is that word card going to go? Excellent, very good. Now I want you to notice something about this. What's the difference between these two words? Yeah, what are we seeing? Yeah, go ahead.
Colony is one thing and colonies are more than.
Exactly, it's more than one, right? It's plural, and notice that the spelling changed in this particular case when we changed it to plural. The idea is to encourage students to make connections, to think through other topics that they are studying, to weave in concepts and skills that they're learning across the curriculum, perhaps that they've learned previously in the year. By building in interleaving within our classroom instruction and through practice and study, our brain is able to make deeper connections and learn more effectively and more efficiently.